Okay, here we go. It's going to get exciting. Jags back in action against Tennessee, against a 1-10 team, the Tennessee Titans. We're talking about it right here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Man, we appreciate you tuning in. Episode show number 69. That's right, episode show number 69 of the Teal podcast. And away we go. Away we go. Okay, here we are. Teal Shirt Report podcast. A lot of things to talk about. The coaching situation is a mess in college football. It is an utter mess. Then I hear in the last day or two, man, Florida might be a little bit back into the picture with Lane Kiffin. That there might have been, I'm hearing all kinds of rumors that some people are just out there talking. Some people are actually just out there talking. They don't really know what's going to happen. But there were reportedly, some of Lane Kiffin's people may have talked to the Florida people about a week ago. Is there still a chance Lane Kiffin could go to Florida? Man, I wouldn't put anything past this cat. Could he stay at Ole Miss? Yes. Could he go to LSU? Probably double yes. That's kind of the feeling I get it. LSU would be, if he goes to LSU, that's probably what we kind of thought was going to happen for the most part. If he goes to Florida, would surprise me some. But then I'm saying, well, Florida was kind of sly, and they got back in there. If he does not go to LSU, those people are going to have, speaking of the Egg Bowl, the people at LSU are going to have some egg on their face because they've been talking about this Lane Kiffin was a done deal, I think, almost as long as a couple of weeks ago. So, my goodness. Jaguars won their last game 27-24 over the Arizona Cardinals in overtime. The Jaguars several weeks ago beat the Raiders in overtime on the road. Man, thank goodness they won those two games. If you lose those two overtime games, you're like 5-6 now. The game in Houston, the Jaguars probably should have won. The NFL is so topsy-turvy right now. And then you got the 1-10 Tennessee Titans, and they're going to win another game. And it could be this week. I mean, I'm hearing our source thinks it's going to be one heck of a close game. Is that sad? Or does that mean the Jaguars are kind of lucky to be 7-4 right now? I'll take a look right now on the screen. This is the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 69. Jaguars are 7-4. Titans are 1-10. Let's take a look at what our source likes. The Jaguars are actually a 6-point favorite in this one. Over under at about 42. Could be one of those gut-wrenching, oh, man, who's going to score at the end kind of games. Our source actually likes the Jacksonville Jaguars to win. And our source is saying they'll probably win by 4 points. Tennessee will cover the 6-point spread where Jacksonville is favored by 6 points, even on the road at Nissan Stadium. It's what they call a stadium up in Nashville now. The game is this Sunday, November the 30th, 2025, kickoff at 1 o'clock p.m. And our source is liking the Jags to win, I'm going to say, by 3 to 4 points in that area. So our source is saying Jacksonville will win the game. Tennessee will cover the spread, and the total will actually go over the 42 points. But how much more? Are we looking at maybe you're adding all this stuff up? Are we looking at a Jags win like maybe 24-21 possibly? This isn't my prediction. I'm just trying to figure out what our source is thinking. He's thinking Tennessee's going to score about 21 points, where, the Jags are probably going to score in the area of 24 to 25 points. So rounding it all off, could it be a Jacksonville 24-21 win? That looks like kind of the prediction from our source. The game is 1 o'clock p.m. in Nashville this Sunday, November the 30th of 2025. The Tennessee Titans are 1-10. Doesn't get much worse than that. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are fortunate to be 7-4. But then there's a The game in Houston, the Jags probably should have won. You probably figure they should have won at least one of the overtime games. So maybe 7-4 is about where the Jags should be. I got the score. I got the score on here from last week. Jacksonville Jaguars 27, the Arizona Cardinals 24 in overtime. I think we can probably take that score down now. We're working on obviously there's a lot of games coming up in college football this weekend. What do you got? The Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia Tech. I think Mad Max said Georgia Tech is playing on Friday. That's going to be a good one. We might have to pull a point spread up on that one. Let me pull the score down of the Jags game on the YouTube channel, right? Florida is hiring a new coach. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Florida is hiring a new head football coach. Who will it be and who should it be? I think the candidates have changed some. Drinkwitz, I think it got to the point where the Florida people, and even myself included, Drinkwitz got blown out at home by Texas A&M. Then he lost another game last week, so they've lost a couple of games in a row. And instead of his name being out there, it looks like Missouri has re-signed him. They're like 7-4. He's really strung together some winning seasons and some good seasons in his defense. So apparently Missouri has re-signed Drinkwitz, and so they wanted to get him off the market. I don't think Florida was going to hire him. I mean, they could have. He was still in there as a candidate, but he's not anymore. The candidates basically are Lane Kiffin, hanging on by a thumbnail. Lane Kiffin's probably going to LSU or staying at Ole Miss, but Florida's still out there, still mentioned as a possibility. After Lane Kiffin, it's probably Jeff Brom out of Louisville now. Clark Lee, even out of Vandy. There's some interesting things about those two names I just mentioned. Jeff Brom is from Louisville. He played at Louisville, played in the NFL some, played for Louisville. It's its alma mater. That's his alma mater, and he's coaching there. Isn't that the pinnacle? Why would he leave his alma mater, but maybe for the Florida job, bigger job? Clark Lee at Vandy has done some phenomenal things at Vandy. Vandy's like, what are they, 8-2 this year? They put a couple of good seasons back to back. They'll be in a bowl game this year. Clark Lee, another guy, his alma mater is Vandy. He was a fullback, I understand, at Vandy. Then there's John Summerall from Tulane. He's still mentioned as a candidate at Florida. I think there was an interview maybe scheduled with Summerall, and then maybe it kind of disappeared. I'm not even sure they've actually had a sit-down interview with his people. And maybe all this comes after the season is finally over. I mean, what's going to happen is Lane Kiffin is going to say, hey, I'm staying at Ole Miss. I'm going to LSU. You know what? All of a sudden, he pulls out the Florida Gator hat and he goes to Florida. And there may be a small percentage of that happens. What's the biggest percentage? He stays at Ole Miss. And if he does not go to LSU, those people at LSU, man, they're going to have some egg on their face from the Egg Bowl. So the Florida Gator situation is this. Lane Kiffin, he's the number one choice. He can still go to Florida about the time the Egg Bowl is kicking off or the game ending. I don't know. Whoever wins that game, they get the big egg or whatever they get. But, I looked at that game from our source, and Ole Miss is like a 26 or 26.5 point favorite. Does all this stuff happening with Lane Kiffin, does it suck the air out of the Ole Miss football team? And maybe they don't play as good. I can't see him winning by 26 points. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a good number of times, but I'm expecting, and our source thinks the game is going to go under the total. When people play the over-unders, people don't do that, do they? I guess they do. Ole Miss is like a 26, in most circles, they're a 26 to 26.5 point favorite. The over-under is like 61.5 points. And a lot of people are saying play the under in this one. That's what some people are saying in some circles. But Ole Miss blowing them out. Yeah, I talked to Gaylor the other day, and Gaylor said in the chat, one of the chats, that he believes Ole Miss will blow them out. Maybe there's where the 26.5 points comes from. But could all this with Lane Kiffin kind of suck the air out of the team and they win by 1 or 2 touchdowns, maybe? Just saying. Going back to, we talked about the Jaguars being favored by 6, but maybe winning by 3 or 4. That's kind of what our source is figuring. So the chance of Lane Kiffin going to Florida, I mean, it comes down to this. Lane Kiffin's going to say, hey, I'm staying. I'm going to LSU. Or maybe I'm even going to Florida. I think those are the 3 choices during or after the Egg Bowl. I don't think anything's mentioned during the Egg Bowl or before the Egg Bowl, but after the Egg Bowl, there's going to be some stuff coming out because that's going to be the end of the regular season for Ole Miss unless they end up in the SEC championship game, but that's not regular season ball anymore. It's all postseason after that. And then I heard some people saying if Lane Kiffin leaves, Ole Miss might not get it as good a seed in the tournament, in the playoff. That doesn't seem fair. College football is a mess. One of my good friends I went to high school with, he doesn't like the Lane Kiffin hire if he were to go to Florida. I'm somewhat in agreement. In fact, I'm probably pretty close to completely in agreement. Jeff Brom, I'm not a big fan of that hire, although he's probably one of the more qualified candidates after Lane Kiffin. Jeff Brom from Louisville, Clark Lee from Vandy. Haven't heard the Georgia Tech coach mentioned with Florida though, but he's had a really good year. John Summerall with Tulane. And I think there might have been even an interview that was going to take place with his people that might have been canceled or postponed from what I heard here about a week ago. But I keep hearing with John Summerall with Tulane, I keep hearing Auburn. I keep hearing he'll go to Auburn. Maybe he'll have a shot to go to Florida or Auburn. I don't know. He's strung together some pretty good years at Tulane, some good seasons. Drinkwitz out of the picture. Apparently, he's re-signed with Missouri now. He's lost 2 games in a row, and he's gotten a raise at Missouri. And of course, I know it's about the body of work and that kind of thing. Still, a notable guy that I like, Kerwin Bell. He's not going to get the job. I wish he would, but he's not going to get the job. You know why? Do you know why? Because it would drive the market down for coaches, right? Now, if you're Scott Strickland and you want to do something really to shake things up, you hire Kerwin Bell. You got to call Western Carolina because he's under contract through 2030. You have to get permission. They might not get permission. They don't want to lose their coach. Kerwin Bell's a heck of an offensive mind. And his son, who I'm pretty sure he taught the offense to, is now the offensive coordinator at Pitt. And they put 42 on Georgia Tech, a good football team, last week. If Kerwin Bell's name came out of the blue and all of a sudden he got in the mix, I like that. I don't think it's going to happen. Kerwin Bell's a long shot. But of all these guys I'm looking at, Kerwin Bell, the reason why I like Kerwin Bell, there's a few things. He runs a great offense. He basically came in at Jacksonville University when they started the football program. And man, he won. He won with a new program. He won. He went to Valdosta State after that, after JU said, hey, we can't make the program any bigger, don't have the money. JU actually brought in another football coach after Kerwin left. And the coach that came in was more of a running style coach. And I think that lasted maybe, 3 years or 4 years, something like that. And then JU decided to shut down the college football program. But Kerwin Bell won at JU with a startup college football program. Then he goes to Valdosta State, where Mike Leach had been an assistant coach under Hal Mumme years earlier. Not only did Kerwin Bell win at Valdosta State, he won a national championship there. And he did all he could do at Valdosta State. He won the national championship. He won. Then he goes to Western Carolina, where they've hardly ever won. And he's putting winning seasons together at Western Carolina. Kerwin Bell, to me, makes the most sense. And on social media, I wish I could go up there on social media and look at the post that I did. I did a post, and there were a couple other posts. But Kerwin Bell, I would say probably 70% or more of the people were giving it a thumbs up. They liked it. They liked the idea. Then there were some people saying, "Oh, Scott, you're crazy." And I got called a couple of names. But it was only by maybe 2 or 3 people. Most people liked it. Kerwin Bell played at Florida. He was a walk-on back in the 1980s. I did some research. By the way, Kerwin Bell and Emmitt Smith were not teammates. When Kerwin retired, that was the year that Emmitt was recruited and brought into Florida right as Kerwin Bell was leaving. So he did not have the benefit of Kerwin Bell. Kerwin Bell did not have the benefit of Emmitt Smith, basically a Hall of Famer, in his backfield. Kerwin Bell had a great season at Florida. They were still under the probation, from the Charlie Pell, and then Galen Hall was the coach that coached Kerwin Bell. And Florida went 9-1-1. Now, the reason why I talk about Kerwin Bell and defend him and say it'd be a great hire is I feel like I need to. I really feel like I need to. We're 17 minutes in, JC. We're brought to you by Saucer Realty and Capital, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com. And Lake Eufaula Hits, great internet radio where it's all good. JC live from the pub on Thursday nights. Getting underway at 6 o'clock Eastern time. No, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Central time at LakeEufaulaHits.com on Thursday nights. JC live from the pub. Mad Max, great show on Wednesday nights. The Mad Max Mix.weebly.com. I did talk to Max last Wednesday, and we talked to Max the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Had a great talk. Max talked about Three Dog Night coming to Columbus, Georgia. They're going to be in Columbus, Georgia, I believe on December the 4th, but we've got the concert listings, and we've actually got the Columbus, Georgia show up on the concert listings. Also, Three Dog Night will be in Orange Park, Florida, which is essentially only a 15, 20-minute drive from most of Jacksonville. So, and you can check out the concerts. We've got the Columbus, Georgia show. That's going to be December the 4th up in Georgia. And then there's a show later in the month in December for Three Dog Night. The one later in the month of December is going to be at Orange Park at the Thrasher Horn Center at Orange Park. Go to the website, check out all the shows. Journey, The Final Frontier. I'm assuming this means this might be their last go-around. The Final Frontier. We've heard of this type of stuff before. But I believe Journey, we got their show up on the website too. That's in May. And that'd be a big show. Check out all the concerts, bigjreport.com. Scroll the Neighbors 2 section, and you'll find the shows. Three Dog Night, just an old-fashioned love song playing on the radio. Was that their biggest song, Old-Fashioned Love Song? They did Joy to the World. Some songs by Three Dog Night I actually liked better than others. I'm not going to go into... there's some songs that have irritated me over the years, but not many. My favorite song by Three Dog Night is a song I did like, Old Fashioned Love Song, but probably my favorite song by Three Dog Night was a song called Out in the Country. Out in the Country by Three Dog Night. We might have to put it on the in the comments where you can listen to it here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 69. We've been on YouTube for almost a year or more now. We've done the audio podcast, which is still going on. The audio podcast is still available with the Teal Shirt Report podcast, and I think we're getting close to 12,000 total listens on the audio version of the Teal Shirt Report podcast as well. Going back to Kerwin Bell, and we mentioned all the candidates for the Florida job: Lane Kiffin, Jeff Bromnow, even Clark Lee at Vandy. John Sumrall from Tulane apparently is still in the mix, although the rumor I heard the last week or two was he may take the Auburn job, or maybe offered the Auburn job. Drinkwitz, apparently, Eli Drinkwitz has re-signed with Missouri, and he's a good coach for them. I mean, not everybody says, Missouri, they're going to have winning records, and they're playing in the tough and rugged. They're playing in the tough and rugged SEC. I saw somebody describe the SEC a little earlier today as a loaded SEC. Well, that's kind of an understatement there, I would think. Okay, here's the real reason. Well, I talked about it some before. We talked about our sponsors, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com, Lakeview for all the hits, and Saucer Realty and Capital. For your real estate needs in North Florida, whether it's home, residential, business, or commercial real estate, Saucer Realty and Capital. You'll find the links for Saucer Realty and Capital on our homepage near the North Florida Weather Report. In the Neighbors 2 section, where the concerts are listed, you'll also find links for Mad Max's show on Wednesday nights and JC's Live from the Pub Show from Lakeview for all the hits on Thursday nights. You'll find links for these shows for all of our sponsors on our website at bigjreport.com. So, Kerwin Bell, and there's a guy that come up, a fairly famous guy, too. I know him. I've known him for years, probably since I was 18, 19 years old. I'm not going to out him, but he came up on a post I did on Facebook and said, "Bro, it's not happening." Well, if I'm going to say Kerwin Bell's a very long shot candidate, I'm thinking it's probably not happening either, right? So, but I do appreciate that comment. It kind of shook up the post a little bit and made the post even better. Thank you, sir. Thank you, bro. But Kerwin Bell, let me get back to Kerwin Bell for a minute. He runs a great offense. They shellacked. They blew VMI off the field last week. They lost to Mercer by 2 points, like, what was it, 49-47. But the very next week, Kerwin Bell, his team blew VMI off the field. They're having another winning season at Western Carolina. He won at Jacksonville University, a startup program. Won at Valdosta State, won a national championship. And now, I have never really remembered anybody ever really winning at Western Carolina other than Kerwin Bell, who is now putting, back-to-back and consecutive winning seasons together at Western Carolina. Can he do the job at Florida? Well, I was talking to Larry Saucer with Saucer Realty and Capital, and Larry, his main quote was, "Yeah, Kerwin can do the job." Do you really need to hire a guy for all this crazy money? I saw a friend of mine on Facebook that I went to high school with, and he's fairly conservative when it comes to some of these matters, but he was not in favor of Lane Kiffin or all this crazy money and, all this circus that's ruining college football, and that's what he said. And I respect his opinion. I went to high school with the guy, and I'm not going to throw any names out there now, but the reason why I like Kerwin Bell so much is not only does he have the experience of winning everywhere he's gone as a head coach. I know he had that 1 year, I think, when he was, they were going through some struggles at South Florida, and he was the OC, I think, for 1 year at South Florida. But he's won every place he's been as a head coach. Every place. He's a winner. He don't like to lose. That's why he wins. He does not like to lose. This should not be about this really should not be about ridiculous college football coach salaries, buyouts, splash hires. No, this should be about winning. It's about wins. It's about winning. So one of the reasons why I like Kerwin Bell so much is I know this for a fact. If he were the head coach at University of Florida, and we know it's not happening, he's the longest shot candidate in the in the drawer. I mean, you got Jed Fish. I didn't even mention him, but he's like 31 and 32 as a head coach, and there's some people that want him at Florida because he went to school there. I don't think Jed Fish. He didn't play college football. The way he got into coaching was astounding. I think he used to leave notes for Steve Spurrier under Steve Spurrier's windshield wiper. And that's how he got into coaching. He was the assistant. He was an assistant. I'm sorry. He was an offensive coordinator for Gus Bradley with the Jaguars. After a year or two, he got fired. But now he's got into, more coaching. He coached in Arizona. Now he is, I mean, he's in a big time job. He's at Washington with the Huskies. But man, they're playing in the Big Ten, and he's losing some games. He's winning a few, but he's losing a few. Same thing's going to happen in the SEC. SEC is going to be even tougher than the quote-unquote Big Ten, right? So I'm going to tell you, Jed Fish, you got a shot at the Florida job, but man, you better hang on to that Washington job because that Big Ten's rough and tumble, almost as rough and tumble as the SEC. I forgot to mention Jed Fish as a candidate, but yeah, he's a legitimate candidate. He went to school at Florida. He's been a head coach at Arizona, Washington, coach in the NFL. I think he was an assistant. I'm not going to go through all the places, but after he left the Jaguars, I think he became an assistant coaching college football, and he's earned his move ups through the ranks. Jed Fish. But if you're looking at record, I think he 31 and 32 in the last few years between Arizona and Washington. Those are big time programs. He was in the Pac-12 and made the move with Washington into the Big Ten. Now that's a tough conference for Washington to be in. Washington, Oregon, Nebraska's in there. College football is just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Stanford is in the ACC now. We could talk about this ad nauseum. But I do want to mention Kerwin Bell. We're 27 minutes in, JC. And my reasons may not be as good as the next guy's. I'm pretty sure the younger folks in the fan base, they don't even know who Kerwin Bell is. I'll tell you who he is. He's a guy that was a walk-on at the University of Florida, won the starting quarterback job and went 9-1-1. 9 wins, 1 loss, and a tie. He got into coaching. He started out, I think, he might have been a grad assistant at Florida, I think, and then he did some high school football coaching. Then he got the job at JU, then won a national championship at Valdosta State at a lower level of college football. Now he's at Western Carolina. What did Western Carolina do? Man, Kerwin, man, he's putting some offense on the field, and we're having winning records at Western Carolina. Let's up him. They've re-signed him through 2030. Florida'd have to buy out his deal, but, Kerwin's only making, I thought it was 200,000. I think it's around 263,000. It could be more than that, less than that. I don't know the exact figures. And personally, I don't know Kerwin Bell. I've never met him. I'd love to meet him, but I've never met him before. But I will say this. I can say this from observing Kerwin Bell and people talking about him. And I guess I could have met him when he was coaching at JU, but I think I was in Western Georgia at the time, for the most part, running a radio station. But I will say this about Kerwin Bell. I know that if he was, and we know it's a long shot, a very long shot, and maybe not any kind of a shot, but I do know this: if Kerwin Bell somehow lightning did strike, and he all of a sudden Scott Strickland came to his senses and said, Kerwin Bell's out there, man, he'd do a heck of a job. And somehow Kerwin got through all these candidates and they gave him the job. I do know this about Kerwin Bell. When he put on that Florida Gator hat on the sidelines as coach at University of Florida, it would mean more to him than most any of these other candidates. That's going to wrap it up My name's Scott, your host for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We have been presented by Salsa Realty and Capital, the madmaxmix.weebly.com. Max, you got a great show. Keep it going. JC, we'll look forward to listening to you on Thursday nights with Live from the Pub with JC. We're eloquently produced by JC, also by Alex Nunnery. Alex Nunnery is a big Lane Kiffin guy. Man, if Lane Kiffin got back into the mix, ooh, man, what do you think? There's an outside shot. I've got my thumb between my fingers. There's a shot. Maybe Lane gets the Gator job. Well, it's up to him. Lane's got the choices. Lane is raising the market, baby. That's what it's all about. And the Egg Bowl got Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Ole Miss is like a 26 to 26.5 point favorite. Got Georgia Tech, Florida State. I haven't pulled the Georgia Tech lineup, but I will. We still got to do the SEC power rankings, and I guess now we're at the point where there's going to be games played this weekend, so we'll probably do it after the games this weekend, and it'll be like a final regular season BigJReport.com SEC power rankings. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. I'm your host, Scott, about 31 minutes in today, JC. Again, we're eloquently produced by JC, also by Alex Nunnery. Special thanks to our contributor and correspondent, Mr. John Gaylor. And it's true, Jed Fish may be one of the top 3 candidates in this thing now. But you got Lane Kiffin. If he wants a job, it's his. And the thing about Lane Kiffin is that he's got the LSU job if he wants it. He's got the Florida job if he wants it. He could stay at Ole Miss if he wants to. And if he wanted to go coach the Giants or the Dolphins in the NFL, he could probably get those gigs too. It's about he's raising the price of the market. That's why Kerwin Bell won't be hired, because he would drop the price of the market, right? Think about that. I'm Scott, your host for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. The zany, crazy world of college football. It ain't like it was back in the day in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, is it? Or was it? But we're covering it. We're still covering this crazy, zany thing called college football. This has been the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 69. Go Jags. Got to beat the Titans on the road. Duval. And again, thank you so much, JC, for being our executive producer. Want to thank Alex Nunnery. And again, John Gaylor, our contributor and correspondent. Thank you so much, John. That's going to do it for episode show number 69 of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. I'm Scott, and I'm out. Hey, have a great day. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Man, these games coming up are going to be pretty good. The old Egg Bowl. And then you got Georgia Tech should be a good one. Georgia Tech. You got Florida State. You got the old Iron Bowl with Bama and Auburn. Pretty good college football games coming up. Oh, the NFL. Man, wait a second now. Wait a second now. I got to give you before we go, I got to give you the rundown on the turkey games, right? I've got all the turkey games at my disposal here. And let's pull them down. Green Bay is a football team that's playing good football right now. Their defense is playing pretty good. Their quarterback, Jordan Love, may be playing better than ever now. There was also a third Turkey Day game. It was a night game. This one kind of surprised me. Cincinnati Bengals 32, the Baltimore Ravens 14. A final on Thursday night, November the 27th of 2025. That comes to us from Big J Report. Let me take a look here. These were the games during predominantly the daytime. NFL football Turkey Day games. Green Bay Packers 31, Detroit Lions 24. Green Bay with a big win. And somehow, someway, the Dallas Cowboys beat the KC Chiefs. Dallas 31, Kansas City Chiefs 28. Kansas City's going to have to really bust their tail just to make the playoffs. They're 6-6. They might have to just about run the table. And meanwhile, The guy that quietly is putting together one heck of a season is Sean Payton, the coach of the Denver Broncos. They're 9-2. Kansas City 6-6. The Jags are 7-4. Again, the Turkey Day games: Green Bay Packers 31, Detroit Lions 24. Dallas somehow, some way came up with a win. Dallas Cowboys 31, Kansas City Chiefs 28. A final on Turkey Day on Thursday, November the 27th of 2025. I'm glad we got the Turkey Day games in. Weather capsule clear and cold this morning on Friday morning in Jacksonville, Florida. We got down to 37 degrees in Jacksonville, Florida at 4:30 a.m. in the absolute morning. That's right, clear and cold this morning, 37 degrees in Jacksonville, Florida at 4:30 a.m. on Friday morning, November the 28th of 2025. Yulee, the home of the running back with the Ravens, who spent so many years with the Titans. Derrick Henry, that's his name. Derrick Henry played high school ball at Yulee. Yulee, Florida's got 29 degrees this morning, according to a report that we got in. I did have a complete weather report up here somewhere. Here we go. Clear, cold, and breezy at times in North Florida. Low temperature near 35 this morning. We've seen a low as low as 37 so far. We'll take another gander at the thermometer in a minute. It's 36 now, currently at 7:13 in the morning. Low temperatures near 35 here in Duval. High temperatures Friday afternoon around 59. Winds picking up some out of the north at about 8 to 17 miles per hour. Some clouds moving in late tonight, late Friday night, November the 28th of 2025. Big football games coming up. Did I want to take, I've already said goodbye, right? But we're still going at it here. I wanted to take a look. I got kind of curious about the Georgia Tech line, and Mad Max told me this was a Friday game, so that would be today sometime. Let's take a look at this one. This is a huge one. And let's take a look at Georgia Tech. Man, you got Florida State coming up this weekend. Alabama, Auburn. I think Tennessee and Vandy are playing this weekend too. Let's isolate on the Georgia Tech game, though. Let's pull that one up. See if I can get a little information on perhaps Georgia Tech. And it's going to be a good one. I mean, you got two good teams in this one. The Bulldogs are actually a 13.5-point favorite. Is that right? The Yellow Jackets looking to rebound from their loss to Pitt. Who's the offensive coordinator at Pitt? Who is he? Kerwin Bell's son, Cade Bell. And they put 42 points on Georgia Tech. Georgia and Georgia Tech will meet for the 119th time on Friday. Absolutely. Man, that's a long rivalry. And it's two of the longest rivalries have got to be Georgia Tech. You got Georgia, Auburn. Georgia, Florida has been going on for a long time, but Georgia and Auburn is a longer rivalry. Let's see here. I'm looking. I guess this is the information we got. We actually have Georgia's favored. That makes sense. Big Georgia from the SEC. Max's Georgia Bulldogs are a 13.5-point favorite. In the clean old-fashioned hate game, the grand total, the total is 59.5 points. Man, I'll tell you what. The game is being played Friday, November the 28th, 3:30 p.m. later today. And, man, that is a big football game. Now I got a little bit more information on the game. The Georgia Bulldogs are 10-1. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are 9-2. This game will be played in Atlanta on Friday afternoon, November the 28th of 2025 at 3:30 p.m. at Mercedes-Benz. Okay? Georgia will win. This is our source. Georgia will win. Georgia Tech will cover the point spread, and the total will apparently go over the 59.5 points of the over-under. It's a big one. Georgia Bulldogs 10-1. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are 9-2. This game being played today on Friday afternoon, November the 28th of 2025 at 3:30 p.m. at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Big games this weekend. Georgia Tech. Got Auburn and Bama in the Iron Bowl. Florida State's always a huge rivalry, even though both teams are having disappointing seasons. Then you got the Egg Bowl. We talked about the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss is a 26 to 26.5 point favorite. Do they win by that much? Where will Lane Kiffin go? There's a couple of places people like to tell Lane Kiffin to go, but he's changing the market. He's ultimately going to kind of kickstart this whole thing. Once Lane Kiffin says, I'm staying at Ole Miss, or I'm going to LSU, or maybe an outside shot of going to Florida, then the other jobs are going to start filling up after that point. That's going to completely do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Again, thanks to our executive producer, JC, also Alex Nunnery, and our contributor correspondent, John Gaylor. Thank you, John. I'm Scott for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. And man, you know the story. I am out. You guys have a great day. This has been episode show number 69 of the absolute Teal Shirt Report podcast from BigJReport.com. I forgot to mention it, but hey, you guys subscribe to the channel. Give us a comment on Lane Kiffin or anything in regards to college football or even the Jacksonville Jaguars that play the Tennessee Titans this Sunday. The Jags are actually a 6-point favorite on the road. Hey, you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm Scott, your host for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. And yes, sir, I am absolutely out.